All right, everyone, it's 9:15, so we'll continue on with our session here. I see there was a question during the break.
Yeah, Greg, I'd be happy to address that if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so this is a great question. The question is, does Maine Forest Service prefer that notifications come in for small known planned harvest areas and then later get amended, or cover larger areas with the initial notification? So it's a kind of a scale question. And it really kind of pertains a little bit or primarily to the larger ownerships. So I'll just note that the FOResT system allows you to map multiple areas. It allows you to map, small areas, big areas. It doesn't have a limitation in that regard. And it's also not, we're not looking for precision mapping to the nearest, couple dozen feet or whatever. What the system really is for is to indicate the location of the harvest area, kind of in keeping with the requirements that the harvest be, locatable in relation to the landscape or some features on the landscape. So the other thing I'd say is that there is no online amendment system currently, where that's under development, and there will be a process for that. So that is certainly a current limitation. I guess to answer the question, I guess I would say generally staying away from the extremes is probably a good idea. So for the larger ownerships, you certainly don't need to map, or for any ownership, we're not looking to the nearest tenth of an acre or anything like that. So you can map multiple areas that you're going to be working in, and do that as your planning allows. At the same time, if you want to draw in a larger area, that's okay, but at some point, it becomes unwieldy, and we're still working with this system. So at some point, if you cover a very large area, you're going to get a long list of reminders relating to a whole bunch of different sub-districts or other kinds of features. So I think the best answer I can give now is that some sort of happy medium of not trying to map every single acre, but also keeping it in the letter and spirit of having the harvests be somewhat locatable on the landscape, is what the system will allow and what probably would work best. I do think that as we work with this system, the experience will kind of indicate a little bit what works best. So at this point, I hope that answers the question. Thanks for it.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other questions before I jump into the demo? All right, I'm gonna start out here. Share my screen, and both Dan and Mort mentioned, hopefully everyone can see my screen, and I'm on the Maine Forest Service homepage. And both of them mentioned that we had some resources on our website, and I just kind of briefly want to touch on them before I dive into FOResT itself. On the homepage, sort of in the center top, there's a link here: file your forest operations notification or FONs online. If you click on that, it's going to take you to this landing page, I'll call it, a resource page for FOResT. And I'm just going to briefly scroll down it, and hopefully I'm doing it slow enough so nobody gets dizzy or sick or anything, but we have some resources on here, the background of FOResT, the timeline we have, what you need to have before you get into FOResT. The main thing is an email account for anybody that's going to be participating in a notification. They're going to need an email address. And then after the email address, they're all going to need a FOResT account so that they have a FOResT ID. So those are the two big steps to start out with. We have our frequently asked questions that we're updating weekly at least. And then, as mentioned earlier, some video resources. And these here are just 2 to 5 minute videos of the different parts of FOResT and how you would sort of navigate and fill out the information on each section. The intent is to keep them brief, but to give you the information you need to complete that specific task in FOResT. And then the next section is just the recordings of these public sessions. We've broken them up into the overview and the demonstration parts of each session. And then last is if you're frustrated or still have questions, here's how you can get a hold of us. Either give us a call, send us an email, or fill out a form online to do that. So I just want to give you that brief look at that. And I kind of probably skipped right over probably the most important one, but the very top here is this link that takes you to FOResT to fill out a notification. This takes you to the production, or what everyone in the public sees now. I'm going to do this demo in our test environment, but the experience is going to be very similar, except for one obvious thing that you're going to see right off the bat here. So I'm going to move into demonstrating FOResT now. I'll close that tab. So just the only thing that's going to be different is this notice here is just letting us know that we're in the test environment. So when you log into FOResT, you're not going to see that notice there. And as mentioned several times before, the most important step here is to create an account in FOResT. Everyone needs an account so that they can have a FOResT ID. That is a key part to be part of a notification. So I'm going to start by creating an account, clicking on the Create an Account button. And this takes you to the one-page form, a very typical account setup or create an account form. I'm going to just scroll down slowly down through here so you know what we're going to be doing. Basically filling out your name, your contact information, your email address, and the password that you'll be using to log into FOResT. And then just your physical address. And if you have a different mail address, you would have to do it down here at the bottom. And then when you're all done, you would click the Create Account button. I'm just going to scroll slowly back up here, and we'll create an account. If you have a company name, you can put it in there. We'll put in a phone number, and you'll notice here as I type a lot of these parts of the form, we try to kind of give you additional information on the type of formatting or information we're looking for. So you'll see as I'm typing the phone number in, this little note right below the text box says numbers only with area code. So we're just looking for the numbers, no dashes. And when you've met that requirement, the message goes away. If you're a licensed forester and you want to be listed as a licensed forester on a notification, you would put in your license number here. One of the features that are going to be added here is just a little bit more helpful information. To start the license number, you want to put in either LF or FI, followed by your number. That piece of information is not presented here, and some people have found that a little frustrating that we don't indicate that they need to put in those two leading characters, either LF or FI. Then you put in your email address. I'm just going to enter the email address that I've set up for this demo. And then the password. Again, this is going to be the password you're going to use to log into FOResT. And you'll notice right below this first box here is a list of the criteria that the password must have. And you'll notice as I'm entering a password, those criteria, once they're met in the password, will disappear. So by the time I have my password fully typed in, there should be no more notes down here below it. And then when you've typed it in, we ask that you confirm it. So just type it in a second time. And hopefully you do it correctly, and it's going to say there is no messages below here, and that indicates that both times you've typed in the password, they match. And you'll put in your street address. City. And then again, if you have a different mailing address than your physical address, you would enter it here. We're just going to say it's the same by checking this box here, and it just grays out that part of the form. One of the things that we've gotten notice on that I'm going to demonstrate now about this form is if you think you've entered everything and you're down to the bottom here and you click this create an account button, it doesn't appear to be working. And what we're working on now is when you click on that and there is something missing, it's going to scroll back up to the information that is missing, and you'll see that the physical address first line of that is missing and is required. So just one of the features we're working on adding to this. So if you're in here and you're clicking on this button down below and nothing is happening, just be sure to scroll back up and look for one of those notes under one of these boxes, and that should indicate what needs to be filled in there. So I'm going to click create an account. And you're presented with a note here just saying you're almost there. Just for security, there's an email that's been sent to the email address that you put in for this account, and to go there and check on it. So we just click OK. It takes us back out to the home page of FOResT. So I am going to minimize this now, and I'm going to go to my email. Just going to refresh it here. And you'll see in my inbox here, I have an email to confirm FOResT user account. Click on that. And so this email just basically says that we, the main FOResT service, received a request to create a new FOResT user account using this email address. And what needs to occur now is the account needs to be activated by clicking on this link down below. However, if you receive this request in error, to not click on the link and to call us or contact us. The other part of the message here, and this is probably the most important part, is right here. And this is your FOResT user ID. And this is what you want to keep handy whenever you're going to be working in FOResT and are going to be participating in a notification with somebody else. If somebody else, either a landowner or designated agent, are filling out the notification, you will have to provide them with this user ID and your last name so that they can add you as a contact to that notification. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click here and activate this account in FOResT. And we're going to use the same email address that we used to set up the account. And apologize, this is the browser I use for all these demos, so it's showing you all the different email addresses I've already used in these demos. So you put in your email address and then the password that you put in there for that account. And you click sign in. And you're now logged into FOResT. And again, I'm using the test environment for this demo, so in the real world, you wouldn't see that initial pop-up message about being in the test environment, and you will not see this text at the middle center of the page. At this point, I'm going to take a pause here. Are there any questions? And again, I can't see the chat, so if Mort or Dan or Greg Miller can just let me know if there are questions.
Greg, Stephen over here. How are you?
Good.
It's a good time to mention. I know it was probably said earlier about compatibility and mobile friendly, and how our experience have showed us how important it is to set this account up. The most important step, doing it on a computer, as opposed to the struggles we had with like a tablet and different devices.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we found that there are certain parts that I should back up. Right now, this is not set up to be mobile friendly, where you could use it on a phone or a tablet. Right now, it works very well on a laptop or a desktop computer, and that's probably the best way to do it. We found that when you're testing it on a phone or a tablet, there are some features that, like some of the buttons, do not show up. Like here, this create notification button doesn't display. And so it's probably best at this point to set up your account on a desktop or laptop.
Is there a specific web browser you should be using? Does one work better than another?
It's been tested out on I'll say the major ones like Chrome, Safari if you have an Apple, and Microsoft Edge, I believe, and maybe Firefox. But I know it's been tested out on the 4 or 5 major browsers.
Hey, Stephen here again. Another issue we run into, might be a good time to mention it, is the one-to-one relationship between an account and an email. It's very specific about that. I could be a licensed forester and I would have my own ID, but in many cases you're working for a company. You can't use the same email address for those two accounts. It has to be separate.
Yes, when you're setting up your account, you're using a specific email address, and that specific email address is tied in the upper right-hand corner here of my screen in FOResT, as was pointed out earlier, is my name and my user ID number, and those are tied to each other. You can't have multiple user IDs to one email address and you can't have multiple email addresses to one user ID. It's like Stephen said, it's a one-to-one relationship. All right, excuse me, I'm gonna just give you a overview here of the dashboard. Once you've logged in, this is where you'll end up. As I pointed out, you have you'll know you're logged in by seeing in the upper right-hand corner your name and your FOResT user ID number. And then there's these links along the top. The home takes you back to the home page or the landing page of FOResT, where we set up our, the button was to either sign in or set up your account. There's the button to take you to the dashboard, which is where we are right now. If you want to update your profile, you click that and you can update your information, everything except for your email address, because that is specifically tied to this user ID, and then a link to information on contacting us. So in the main part of the page, there is these two main sections. There's my pending notifications. Since I've just created this account, I have really no activity in here, but the pending notifications would be where either you've started creating a notification and you had to stop for one reason or another. This would be where these would be listed, and you could go in and continue that work. Others that are shown in here would be ones that either you've completed filling out and you're waiting on other parties to certify their participation in it, and the status over here would be pending certification. And then the other main part here is my active notifications, and these are ones that everyone certified their participation, and the notification has been assigned a notification number and is active. And in both the pending notifications and active notifications, the right-hand side would have a link to view the specific notification. In the pending notifications section, that view would actually take you, if it's in draft status, you could go in and continue working on notification. If it's in a pending certification, and we'll see this later on, you'll be able to view the summary information or withdraw that notification. For active notifications, you'll have a link over to the right here for viewing, and that would allow you to view the summary page of the notification. And again, we'll see that in a little bit here. And then the main part here is a button to create a notification, and we'll start that process right now. We'll click on it, and you'll notice the view has changed. Along the top here is the sort of the path to getting to a notification. The first step is the overview, and then we'll go to mapping, activity details, assigning contacts to the notification, and then the summary page. And you'll notice I'm clicking on these different circles, and I cannot advance to those steps because I have not done anything in the overview section yet. So the first part of the overview is where I'm going to say who I am on this notification. And we've noted, like was mentioned earlier, that only a landowner or a designated agent can start a notification or fill it out. And you'll notice that next to some of these possible answers or options are these little information icons. If you hover over one or click on it, it's going to provide you with some more information about what we mean by what is a landowner or a harvester operator. And just one more thing here, I did not, in my profile or when I was setting up the account, I did not put in a licensed forester number. So I do not have the option to be a licensed forester. on a notification. To make this active, I would have to go back up to my profile link up here, click on that and put in a license number. And then I would be able to participate as a licensed forester on a notification. So for this example, you'll see when I click on one of these two, either landowner or landowner designated agent, it's going to be presenting you with more information down below. But if, just for an example, if I just said I'm going to be a harvester, nothing else happens, and I cannot go anywhere further on this notification. I'm going to uncheck that I'm a harvester operator, and I'm going to say that I'm a designated agent on this notification. And when I do that, it's going to be presenting me with some other questions down below here about this notification. The first one is the operation schedule. So you click in here, and you'll just pick a start date. And we've set this up by default to go to the full 2 years of notification. If you find it's going to be less than the full 2 years through the landowner process, you can indicate on there that the harvest is complete, and then that will basically end the notification earlier than the full 2 years here. The next section here is the property details. And what we'll do is we'll select a town, and I'm just going to select green. And the nearest road. And again, I'm going to just point out that just because I'm using a browser that I've done a lot of these demos on, when I click in here, it's going to give the appearance that there's actually drop-down lists here, and they are not. In a previous demo, after the fact, somebody mentioned, well, you had all those drop-downs, and I did not realize that, you know, I've been using this, so it's giving the appearance that there's drop-downs here when actually there is not. In your experience, when you click in here, it's just going to be an opportunity to type in the nearest road. There is no drop-downs here for you. It's just remembering previous answers I've put in for these different questions. So the nearest road, the parcel size, 150 acres. And then the last question here is if the parcel was purchased in the past 5 years. And we're just going to click no here. And as mentioned earlier, the intent in this process is not to present any new questions. These are all questions that are on the paper form now. So this should all be sort of familiar questions to you. So that completes the overview section. And again, I'm going to click next to go to the mapping section. But before I do, is there any questions around the overview section? All right, I'm going to just continue on and do the mapping section here. Click next. So we picked green as the town we're going to do our activity in. And so that's going to be centered right on the main part of the map here. And like I think it was Dan that mentioned, if you're familiar with using Google Earth or Google Maps, the navigation of the screen is very similar. Over to the right here, there are these plus and minus buttons to click on to zoom in or to zoom out. If your mouse has a wheel on it, you can do the same with that. And then you can also click on the map itself and kind of drag it around to move. The other feature here on the right-hand side is this little button here. It looks like 3 trays. If you click on that, it's going to pop out a little, I'll call it a menu. This is where you can change the base map or the background from default of the topographic map to an imagery. And then I'm just going to scroll down in this menu just so you can see what else is here. The town boundaries are displayed. If we're in a LUPC town or township, their sub-districts or zones would be present on the map. And so I'll scroll down through what would be presented in an LUPC town. And then if we're in a statewide standard town, statewide standard features would be displayed, and both the LUPC sub-districts and statewide standard features are turned on by default. And then the other thing, I'm not sure if anything will show up in green, but we also have these critical wildlife habitat. If you turn it on, it's going to display Canada lynx or critical salmon habitat at the town level. And this data is from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. But by default, we have that off, and I'll turn that off here. And then I'm gonna just scroll back up here.
This is Greg.
Yeah.
And then the reason you're not seeing any of the statewide standards or LUPC zones right now is because of the fact that they don't draw at this scale. You have to zoom in to go ahead and see them. It's to go ahead and make the drawings or the display quicker, because if they drew everything on the map, it would take a long time to load.
Correct. Yep. Yep. So I'll show you that now. I'm gonna change back to the topo map. And to close this little menu, just click back on those three trays. And then we'll zoom in a little bit further, and eventually the statewide standard features start displaying here. So if you know you're in a statewide standard town or an LUPC town or township, and you're not seeing these features, just zoom in a little bit more and they'll start showing up for you. So just a couple more things before we start drawing. To draw the activities, there are these three buttons. We'll go through these: drawing a harvest, drawing a road construction, and water crossings. And then the lower part of this page here, or view, is going to list out the different activities that you've drawn on the map. What we'll do is we'll start by drawing a harvest. We'll click on the button. And was pointed out earlier in the overview presentation, when you click on one of these features, you're going to get to the left-hand side these instructions. If you're not familiar with drawing activity, it's going to tell you right there on the left-hand side how to do that. And basically, you just start. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here. And I'm just going to start drawing by finding the starting point and just click once and just start moving your mouse. And when you want to change direction, just click once again and then continue moving. And you'll see once I get to the starting to draw the third point, it's actually starting to calculate acres for you. And again, just click and just continue. Until you're you got to where you roughly think you want the harvest to be mapped out, and then you just double click on it to end your drawing so you can move the mouse. And you'll just notice that there are these dots at each of the points where I changed direction, and you can click on these and drag them if you want to change or fine-tune your harvest area. Again, it's not intended to be like survey quality, but just a good idea of where your activity is going to take place. And then you can also, if you need to add more points in between, you can just on the line, there's a point shows up and just click and you can drag that also. So now that I have a harvest area, There's a number of acres that were calculated from the drawing, and then there's number 1. And that number 1 corresponds to the table down below with an activity ID of number 1 for harvest. It hasn't calculated the size yet because I haven't saved it. Until I save it, I can still go back and change these points around if I want to. Or I can cancel it and remove the harvest completely and just start drawing a new one. I'm going to click Save now. And you'll notice that the points disappeared and I can no longer, click and change that shape. If I want to, I can delete the whole thing and start over. Another thing that changed on this harvest down here on the table was this calculated acres now show up. So now I'm going to draw a road construction by clicking on the road construction button here. And again, you're presented with information on how to draw or map road construction if you're not familiar with it. And again, you're just going to, wherever you want to start the road, you just click once and then just start dragging. And you'll notice it's calculating the length in feet. And when you want to change direction, click once and then just continue dragging, and it's going to add the length as it goes along here. And then just double click to end the drawing of the road. And again, you can add more points if you want to this, similar to the harvest area, or click on an existing one and change however you want that layout to be. And again, it's just an approximation of where the road would go, not an exact.
Can you delete a point once you've drawn it?
I believe you can.
Can you right click delete it or not?
According to the instructions, you
Alt key and left click.
Yeah. So in the instructions, it tells you how to do that. So with the road down in the bottom here in this activity type, there is an additional question related to it, and that's about if it's permanent or temporary. And we'll say it's permanent. And similar to the harvest, I can still go up here and I can add a point and adjust it however I want to until I click the save button. Again, you can click cancel and that'll remove the road completely and you can start over. We'll click save now. And that saves the road. It's no longer editable here. It has the number 2, which goes with the number 2 down below here. And it has the road construction is 3,468 feet in length, and it's a permanent road. I'll just get rid of this here. Give you a little bit more room. So the last activity you can put in FOResT is a water crossing. And to do that, you just click on this button for water crossing. Again, there are instructions on how to map a water crossing point. And then you just, wherever you think the water crossing is going to be, you just click once and it drops it. And again, it assigns it the number 3, which corresponds with the number 3 down here in the table. And by clicking and on it once, you can drag it and move it to wherever you want the crossing to be. And then with a water crossing, there are 2 questions around that. One is related to if it's permanent or temporary. We'll say it's permanent. And then the structure type. Is it for a road crossing or a skid trail? And we're just going to say it's for a road crossing. And again, I haven't clicked save over here, so I can still move this crossing to wherever I want to put it. And once I'm satisfied that it's in the general area where the crossing is going to be, I can click save. And that kind of locks that activity in, and I can no longer edit it, but I can delete it down here in the table and start over. And I'm just going to quickly show you that you can map multiple activities on here. So I'm going to click and map another harvest. Just say we're going to go to the other side of the road here. So I've clicked the harvest button down below. And I'm just going to quickly draw a harvest here. With all the same, you can still change it around however you want to. And then click save. And same with the road construction and water crossings. And I'm just going to click cancel on the road. So are there any questions around the mapping before we continue on our journey here and get into the activity details?
Yeah, I have one. This is Bill Patterson. Maybe you covered it, I missed it, but is the mapping required to happen online, or can a forester just upload an existing map that's already created?
Yeah, so right now it's not, FOResT doesn't have a feature to be able to upload files. It's on our list to add in the near future, probably in the next couple months. And it's sort of tied to the same thing with the amendments. So as of right now, the only way to add a map would be to draw it here in FOResT. All right, I'm going to continue on to activity details by clicking the next button up here on the upper right-hand corner. And again, this is presenting questions that are present on the current paper fawn forms. So it's asking for the size of the harvest, and I'm just going to, for demonstration, I'm just going to say we're going to cut 800 acres. And you'll notice that when I put in the 800, a little message comes up below it just saying, wait a second, you've put in 650 acres as your parcel size on the overview section. So your harvest has to be less than or equal to that size. So there are, kind of basically two options. You can change the harvest size here. We'll just say it's 600. The other option would be if you realize, well, I didn't mean 650, I meant to type in 850, you could go back to the overview section and update it there, and then come back here and make sure that your harvest size is less than or equal to that parcel size. The next question has to do with if it's in tree growth, and we'll just say it is by clicking yes. The next question has to do with if the land's going to change use from growing forest products within the next 2 years. And I'm going to check yes here. And a little change here, as mentioned in the overview presentation, is that if you say it's going to be changing within 2 years, we're presenting you with this drop down, and this really is a drop down. This isn't my browser, to these different land use categories. We're just trying to make it a little bit easier for you. We don't need to know it's a wheat field or a vegetable garden. Just these general topics or categories for land use change. You would select one and then put in the acres that are going to be changed to that use. And then the next two questions have to do with if you're creating clear cuts, and these are dynamic. And what I mean by that is if I said, well, this harvest is only going to be 6 acres, I don't know if you noticed, but down below now those clear cut questions have disappeared. That's because we're saying that our harvest is only going to be 6 acres. So there's no way to have a 20-acre clear cut or above. And if you change this to 26 acres, you'll notice that the first question about clear cuts larger than 20 acres is presented to you. And then if we change that to say 250 acres, then both of these questions around clear cutting are presented. We're going to say it's a 600 acre harvest with 5 acres that are going to change a use to a residential. And then we are not going to create any clear cuts. Actually, we'll create one greater than 20, but not over 75. Continuing on here, a question related to if you're harvesting within 250 feet of any great pond, river, or wetland, and or within 75 feet of any stream. And we'll say we are. And then the next question is related to if you're adding wood to the stream that is consistent with Maine Forest Service Chapter 25 rule. And if you're not sure what Chapter 25 rule is, I'm not sure if you can tell the difference, but there is a link here. And if you click on it, it's going to take you to the Chapter 25 rules, and you can read more about that here. So close that for now and go back to FOResT. And we're going to say we're not going to be adding any wood. And then we are in green, and green is a statewide standard town. So you're asked the questions about shade and tree retention. And if you have, it's related to section 8 of chapter 21. So again, there's a link here for that information if you want to read more about it. And then you're presented with the 3 options here. And we'll just say we're going to do the 60 square feet basal area retention. So the next one is a little bug that we need to fix here. This question has to do with if you're planning a road that's altering wetlands, and this should only be presented to you if you're in an LUPC town. This you can just put in 0. And then the other questions around if you're doing road construction in a FEMA floodplain. And again, these would be, as it says right here, it's a LUPC town or township related questions. So this is a bug we're going to be fixing here shortly. So when it's fixed, in all likelihood, you would be presented with a message similar to what it says down here under road water crossing activities, just saying that you've indicated on the map and to review the requirements on the summary page. And then that takes care of the activity details page. Before I move to the contacts section, the next step here, are there any questions around the activity details?
There is one question in the chat box that Mort or Dan should probably be able to answer.
Yep, I was just about to type into the chat, but yes, the checkbox there to cover unmapped streams, if that's part of your planning and layout process. If they believe there are unmapped streams, then you should check yes.
Okay, yep, thank you. All right, I'm going to move on to the contacts section. So before I start down this page, I just want to go back and just point out one of those features that we mentioned in the overview. We can't move forward. I can't go to the summary page yet because I still haven't completed the contacts page. However, I can, if I want to, I can go back to these previous 3 steps, either activity details, mapping, or overview, just by clicking on one of these here. and it takes me back to the overview section, and so I can move between these if I need to, and then move on to the contacts page. So I am filling out this notification as a designated agent. So I need to provide the information for the landowner and the harvester on this notification. So as mentioned earlier, for the landowner, you need to put in their last name. And again, this is typically not a drop down, it's just my browser displaying what I've already typed in past presentations. So in your case, it would just be a blank line there. So you type in their last name and then their forest ID number, which you've gotten from them because you've talked with them prior to starting this notification. And they've also, in the same time, set up an account in your forest ahead of time. And then once you put those two pieces of information in, you would click Find Landowner. And it's going to retrieve the information about that landowner. And that information, if it's correct, you can continue on. If it's not the right landowner, typed in something incorrectly, you can remove them here and try again. And I think somebody's mic is not muted. Here's something. The next part of the landowner is these two questions around the acres owned in Maine by the landowner. Just check off that. And then what is their landowner ownership type? And again, here are some of those information icons. If you hover on them or click on them, it's going to give you more information about what we mean by these different landowner types. So that completes filling out the landowner's information. And we'll scroll down. You'll see I'm filling this out as a designated agent, so my information is already in here. And then we need to add the harvester information, the harvester operator information. So we have their last name and their forest ID from previous conversations with them. And again, this wouldn't be a drop, this isn't a drop down, it's just a feature of my browser. So you just type in the last name and the forest ID for that person. And you would click the Find Harvester Operator button. And like the landowner, if you've entered the correct information, it should display the harvester operator that you want on this notification. If it did not, that you could click Remove and start entering a different harvester operator information in here, meaning their last name and forest ID number. And if you had a licensed forester, again, you would put in their last name and their forest ID number, not their license number, but their forest ID number, and do the same process. So that completes the contact section. Are there any questions around that? All right, so the next part is the summary page. I'll click next to get there. And so on the summary page, the status of this is still in draft. You can go back and edit anything you want on these previous steps of the notification. And the summary page is just where you're going to review what you've already entered. The first part is the contacts. So you have the landowner, the designated agent and the harvester that are going to be on this notification. You did not indicate a licensed forester, so that's noted here. And then at the bottom of that section, there is this checkbox that says, I certify that this information is correct. And you'll check that and scroll back up. That closes that section and moves you to the overview, which is the first step we actually took. And you're just reviewing what you've already entered. If you see there's something wrong here, something was not entered correctly, you could go back to that section, and I'll do it now just to show you another feature. So we're going to say that we want to change something on the overview page. So we've gone from the last step, the summary section, back to the overview page, and want to change something here. We'll just change the start date to tomorrow. And then we'll just move next. Takes us to the mapping, but we're going to jump back to the summary page. And you'll notice we're back at the top of the page, and the contacts are displayed again, even though we had checked the box previous saying the information was correct. This is a feature just because the system may not know what has changed on this notification. So once you leave the summary section and go back to one of these previous sections and return to the summary page, it's going to redisplay all the sections again for you to certify that the information is correct. So we've certified the contacts, the overview, just reviewing what you've already entered, say that's correct. The map, you cannot add any new activities here, but you can navigate around here. You can, all the other features are here. You can zoom out by clicking on the buttons or zooming in. Again, if you want to, you can go in here and change to imagery for the background. And it's just to help you, get a feel for if what you've mapped is in the correct location. And then just scroll down, and like on the mapping page, there's this table below that lists out all the activities that you've mapped and the information related to it. So if everything is good here, you would check this box saying that you certify the information is correct. And then the next section is the activities details, the third step up above here. And again, you're just reviewing what you've already entered. If you had questions about Chapter 25, that link is here also, as well as Chapter 21, Section 8. Section 8 is a link here to view also. And again, you would just certify that the information is correct by checking the box here. And that closes the section on activity details. Then we also present you with our staff contact information for the staff that covers green. If you had other questions or want to contact us, you can do that here. Just check that that's correct. And then the important reminder section. This is where we present you with information about specific things we want you to be aware of around your activities. First off, there are some general ones about just checking with the town or the municipality to make sure you're aware of all and any local ordinances that may be applying to your activity, and as well as being familiar with all the rules before you start, and then just plan well in advance. So in this example, there were no important reminders around the harvest or the road construction, but there is one around the water crossing, the permanent water crossing that you're going to be making. And it just says that you need to submit a permit 60 days prior to beginning construction, and that it has to be, just make sure it's submitted ahead of time. And then the last section here is about just some general reminders about forestry quarantines. And these three here, and this is dynamic based on the town that you're in. Excuse me. And they're links to our to our website where we have these quarantines. So if you click on one of these, it's going to take you to what we have on our website for that quarantine. As well as there's a reminder about Atlantic salmon habitat. And again, as in the overview was pointed out, that all the boxes here need to be checked, saying that you certify the information is correct before you can actually certify this notification. So I'm going to click the last checkbox here. The certify button becomes active. And we'll click on that. And you're presented with these three acknowledgement statements. First one is that you're the designated agent and you certify all the answers to the questions here are correct to the best of your knowledge and belief. And the next one is about saying that you're the designated agent and you understand that the landowner must sign the in on FOResT and certify that I am the designated agent and is giving me responsibility for the operations. And the last one is about if all the parties need to be review and certify their acceptance of participating in this notification before this notification will be submitted to the Maine Forest Service. And then you check that, and now you can acknowledge and certify. Just one note before I click on that. Up until this point, you could still cancel here and then go back and change anything on the notification you want to. Once I hit acknowledge and certify here, it's going to basically put that notification in a pending certification status. And the only option you'll have as the one filling it out is to withdraw that notification. What also happens when I click this is it's going to automatically send emails out to the other two parties on this notification, which are the landowner and the harvester, for them to certify their participation. So I'm going to click that button here. And a note just comes up saying that you've done your part, you've certified it. Now you can view the summary page and withdraw it if you need to edit it. But you're waiting for the other contacts to certify their participation in this notification. So just click OK. Excuse me. And you're back at on the summary page. The status is now pending certification. It notes here that I, as the designated agent, am certified at this date and time. And then if you want to, you can withdraw that notification. If you click on that button, it basically does not allow the other parties to certify their participation, but it allows you to go back and edit the information that you had already filled in for that notification. And if you scroll down, this is all the stuff that you've already reviewed. You're just able to view it here. So that, as a designated agent, that's all the steps I've taken to fill out this notification. I'm now waiting for the other parties to certify their involvement in this notification. Before I change roles to landowner, are there any questions about that summary page? All right, I'm going to now take the role as the landowner. So I'm going to sign out of FOResT. I'm going to close that completely. So I'm now the landowner. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Greg.
Yep.
A couple of questions have come in that probably should take a moment. One is about working with large landowners, large clients. I think that's a question that we really kind of have to deal with on a case-by-case basis, because there are some things in the works and ways that we're trying to address the different roles, especially with some of the larger landowners and some of the entities that own land. So how that works with creating accounts and who's creating the account and who is entering information is something that we're trying to address in a little bit more detail. So I basically don't want to jump ahead of a process that we're still kind of working through, but I appreciate the question. The other question, Greg, if I could toss this to you, and I'm sorry I missed it earlier, but if people are unsure who the harvester will be on a notification, what's the recommendation for how to enter that information?
The only one that's coming to mind, and if Stephen's available, he'll probably come on here and correct me, but would be to put the designated agent or whoever's filling it out down as the harvester, and that I'm not sure that's totally what we want, but the other option is to have, well, if they are familiar with who might be, the best thing, first step would be to make sure that they have an account in FOResT, because in theory this process could take, I'm going pretty slow through here just so everyone can see the steps, but this process would take less than an hour to go from nothing to actually having a notification in here if all the parties are already set up with accounts. So the first step would be to make sure, even if you're not sure who the harvester is going to be, at least reach out to them and make sure that they have their accounts in FOResT set up already. Then when the time comes, you can come in here, fill out the notification, assign them to that notification, and in a matter of minutes, they can certify their participation in it. In the past, with paper, it's a longer process, but hopefully with FOResT, it's a quicker turnaround to do that.
Hey, Greg and Mort, that's great. Thanks for giving me a shot here. I think that the short answer is we don't have a direct answer that fits every single entity. People in the forest industry certainly conduct their business in different ways, and I don't think it's our role to say, hey, here's how you do it. And saying that, we're trying to get a good fit for solutions so you can move forward with your business. We probably will do separate tutorials, I think, in the future for some of the larger landowners, or people that work for them. Well, let's just take an example. Big Company Timber, a fictitious company, may have 6, 7, 8, 12 foresters on staff. So if that forester wants to also be the designated agent, that's great. He can accomplish that with one email, one account, keeping that same relationship. Logically, what we've told folks is let's make a master account for Big Timber Company. He's your supervisor of your crew, and he's always the designated agent. So he has access to everything. Then your individual foresters out there who started the process with the client or however you run your business, and see fit. So yeah, there isn't one answer that fits everybody. If folks are familiar with being a licensed forester and a designated agent, being able to sign for your landowners with that basic concept of Heck, that's what I'm paying you for. I don't want to do the paperwork. I believe in the future we're going to have that feature where a licensed forester starts the process, and he is the designated agent, of course, and he would have that ability to say, I am signing in lieu of the multiple landowners who are in Hawaii or Kentucky or wherever they are on the planet that don't want to be involved. So maybe Greg can speak to that, how that's a feature that's coming. And again, thank you all of you for hanging in there. We see many varieties of how to do this. You know, the basic concept being I'm Joe, a landowner, and I hired Tim to cut my trees. And then there's variations on that formula. So this, just like the paper form, it's trying to address the needs of everybody. And it is a work in progress. I hope that kind of gives you an idea of where we're leading.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, like you said, we're still trying to work out some of the bugs and the different scenarios out there that we can offer. And I hope that answer helps. Are there any other questions? All right. So like I said, I'm now going to be the landowner for this notification. So I've gone to my email and I have this email message in here letting me know that there's this pending certification for a notification. So we'll open that. And the email says that, Greg Lord created a fawn through the Maine Forest Service forest tool, and it is pending certification until all the participants certify their participation, and that I've been identified as the landowner on this notification, and that I need to certify the information on there is correct, and that I understand the responsibilities. And then we present just some, we didn't want to present the whole notification in this email, but just some general information about it so that the landowner in this example has an understanding of what is being asked. And so that, in reality, hopefully the landowner would be aware that they would be seeing this, expected to see this email coming. And this is just to verify, okay, this is what we're talking about is the harvest or activity in green that's supposed to start tomorrow. And then below there, just gives you two options of what to take for action. If you want to certify that the font is correct and you understand your responsibilities, you would approve the font. But you could also, if you want to, you can decline your involvement and return the font for correction or withdrawal if you don't approve of this font. So at the bottom, there's this link where you can either approve or decline your involvement in this notification. And you'll click on that. So now I'm the landowner. So I need to log into FOResT as the landowner. And what's going to happen is because I clicked on that link from that email, once I log in here, it's going to take me directly to that summary page of that notification. So there is no need to sort of get into the dashboard and try to figure out which one they're talking about. So we'll sign in. And so now we're back at that summary page for this notification. The status is pending certification. If right off I don't want to have anything to do with this, I can decline and it's kicked back to the designated agent. But if I'm so far agreeable with what I'm seeing, I would now, just like the designated agent, I would go down through and review what's been entered. And again, I would certify that the information is correct. If there are some questions about what's on here, either you can decline it at the top or, get on the phone and talk to the designated agent or whoever filled this out. For this example, we're just going to say that everything is correct. Again, the map, same functionality as before. I can zoom out, zoom in. I can change to imagery and click and move around. Again, just to get an idea of what's being proposed in this notification. And again, it's listed out in the table form also. We'll say that's correct. Again, reviewing the harvest details. And there are these links here too. If you're as a landowner, like what is this chapter 25 rule, you can click on it. And again, it takes you to rule 25. Click that's correct. If you want to contact us, our contact information is there. Then the important reminders again. And you'll notice this summary page is the exact same information that was presented to the designated agent. And you'll see in a second here, it's the exact same information that's being presented to the harvester operator. Regardless of your role on a notification, everyone is seeing the exact same information. We'll click certify for the last one there. And again, you can still, if you wanted to, you could decline at this point. We'll say we're going to certify. And now I'm the landowner, so the questions or statements presented just are slightly different. Just as a landowner, I certify that all these answers to the questions are correct to the best of my knowledge and belief. I also understand that I've named a designated agent and given them responsibility. And then the last statement is around other parties needing to complete their involvement in this notification before it becomes active. And so then I will click acknowledge and certify, or I could still, if I want to, click cancel here and withdraw if I wanted to. But we'll click acknowledge and certify. And it just notice comes up saying that you've done your part successfully, and that you can still view the summary page here. It just indicates here that now the landowner has certified their part in this notification. And I should have pointed out earlier, when I first logged in as a landowner, that this information up at the top right has changed, so that now I'm logged in as a landowner with this FOResT user ID. So I'm going to sign out now as the landowner. And I'm going to close that. And now I'm changing roles for the last party that needs to certify their participation in this notification is the harvest operator. So I'm going to my email as the harvester operator, and I see that I have this pending certification here. And this is exactly the same content as the landowner saw in their email. The only difference here is it indicates that this that I've been identified as the harvester operator on this notification. The exact same responsibilities or requirements are presented here. So we'll click the link at the bottom to approve or decline my involvement in this notification as the harvester operator. And so now I need to log in to FOResT as the harvester operator. And again, it's going to take me directly to that summary page for this specific notification when I sign in. So I can see who's already certified, and I can decline my involvement if I want to. We'll just say that we're going to go forward. Again, we're reviewing the exact same information that the landowner and the designated agent have already reviewed. So I'm just going to kind of breeze down through these just quickly. I'll show you that you can still, the map is still just the same functionality as the other two parties. Again, just as a harvester, I'm reviewing all this to make sure I'm agreeable to it. If I'm not, you can either call the designated agent or landowner for clarification, or decline your involvement for them to, edit or update this if it needs to be. And exact same information presented to the landowner designated agent on here. And again, all these links are still active. If you want questions about what's going on with the gypsy moth quarantine, you can see here. And again, I can't certify until all the check boxes have been checked. And I'll click certify. So as a harvester operator, I only am presenting with two statements to certify. First one is just the harvester operator, and I'm certifying that the questions, answers to all the questions are correct to the best of your knowledge and belief, and that there may be other parties that need to certify their involvement before this notification becomes active. So you can still cancel it here, withdraw your participation in it, and it's basically a couple of things are going to happen here when I click acknowledge and certify. Just because we know in this demo that the harvester operator is the last party to certify their participation, there are going to be a couple of things that happen. The notification will no longer become have the ability to either withdraw by the designated agent or to be declined by the harvester. It's going to be, I'll say, locked down. It will become an active notification and will be assigned a notification number once I click this. So we'll click that. And it's going to let you know that, okay, it's been certified and has been submitted to the Forest Service and is now active. Click OK. And then we'll scroll back up to the top here. And some things have changed on this page. First off, there's now a notification number here. The status has changed to active. And you have this print posting button. And you can click on that, and that's going to present you with the ability to print out the posting for this notification. The other part that changed is, so now it's an active notification. We're going to give you the information around landowner reports. Because we're early in the year, there isn't the ability to start filling out a landowner report yet. That will be turned on December 1st at this point. And then we give you some more information about landowner reports and what they are and how we use it. And then there's just all the parties that certified their involvement in this. And then we've kind of gone through this a bunch of times, but again, this is just a summary that we've looked at several times now. So you can still go back here and view it and do the map however you want to look at it. And the plan is around Landowner Reports, it will have similar, these similar sessions, online sessions to go over that part of this FOResT about completing the Landowner Reports within FOResT. That'll be this summer and early fall probably. The only last thing I wanted to just to show, so I'm logged in as the operator harvester with my user ID up here. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and it's going to look a little bit different because as a harvester, I've had some things going on there you didn't see earlier. So I have this under my pending notifications. I have a pending certification for a notification in Andover West Surplus Township. You can click and view. And this is going to take you, because it's pending, again, it's going to take you to that summary page. And it's actually waiting for my involvement in here. Back on the dashboard, then I also have down below are my active notifications, and these are ones that have gone through the process and are now active. And I can tell because they all have these notification numbers assigned to each of them. And it also tells me, you know, the start and end date, as well as the activity that's involved with that notification. And then again, there's this view link you click on and can look at the summary page again. And if I need to, I can print the posting out again. So that completes sort of the demo of using FOResT to complete a notification. And like I said, later this year, we'll have similar sessions to go over completing landowner reports in here. Are there any questions? All right. If there aren't any, I just want to thank Dan and Mort for their help today and their part of the presentation. Then, like it's been said before, this is a work in progress. Excuse me, will probably never be an actual finished product. So we're always open to hearing suggestions, criticisms, and any information that you come across that you think would improve this process for you, as well as just better ways of doing things. We're more than willing to receive those, and again, just shoot me an email or reach out to me, and I'll be glad to hear those and be able to address them. The goal here is to make a better product for everyone. And we understand we're just starting out on a new venture here that we're trying to replace something we've been doing for 30 years with a new way. And of course, there's going to be pains along the way. So the goal is just to continue progress in a positive way to a better product. So we'll be doing these sessions. I think we have 5 more. It's every other Wednesday until the end of March. So the next one I think is February 3rd. And then every other Wednesday until March 31st actually is the last one. And again, we have the resources online. If you want to go back and look at this recording, it'll be up there tomorrow or Friday to review, as well as the past sessions, and then any of the other information we have on there to help you to use FOResT. Mort, Dan, Stephen, Greg, any parting thoughts?
No, I appreciate everyone attending, and I think there have been some excellent questions, and appreciate the the people who are kind of engaging and trying to adapt to this to the way they work. So please keep the questions coming, and we'll certainly be open to discussing and working through whatever problems you encounter. So thanks again, everyone, for attending.
Yes, with that, thank you, everyone. Hope you have a good day. And again, we'll be sending out a notice next week for the next session if you are interested in attending. So thanks again for attending, and have a good day.